All right, today we want to look at the Sioux Falls rental market, and we are in May of 2020. And it really, I made this comment to someone today or the other day, and it just feels like Sioux Falls is kind of like we're in the eye of the storm. And I'll show you what I mean by that here in a second. So we're going to look at the rental market updates. We'll look at South Dakota and kind of what the nation looks like. We'll look at some unemployment stats, the Sioux Falls reopening plan, and then finish with some questions. Well, this is what it looks like as of today. We have about 98.3% of May rents have been paid, and about 98.7% of residents have made a payment. That's a little bit lower than April. We ended up with 99.7% of rents collected, and that little bit that was left over really had nothing to do with COVID. It was more just renters, life gets crazy and abandon a property, and so some different things going on, not really COVID related. So we're extremely happy with this amount of rent coming in 2 months into COVID-19. Well, how does the rest of the country look? So I was just on a call with some other property managers around the country, and you can kind of see here in San Antonio about 89% rent collected, 90% in Denver, only 85% in Portland. Compared to where we're running about 85% in Portland compared to our 98% in Sioux Falls. Portland, though, of course, you've got the mayor, the governor, the county, all putting prohibitions on basically evictions. You don't have to pay rent for 6 months, and they're actively advertising that to renters. You don't have to pay rent. You don't have to pay rent. And so I'm not so sure that our 98%, it's because we're in a better position. Maybe we are. Maybe residents in Sioux Falls can pay rent easier than in some of these other locations. But I think part of it is because the politicians have made such a big deal out of not paying rent that it's put the idea in people's heads to not pay. Now, I think long term that's going to hurt people because that it's not going away. The rent doesn't just disappear. It still is going to come due down the road. So. Especially with all the money that the federal government has pushed into unemployment and the stimulus checks that have gone out. I think San Antonio was talking about where they're getting hurt is they have residents who are legal but are not paying unemployment somehow, and so they're not really getting covered by unemployment. I'm not sure exactly how that works. So those folks are not getting federal money or even state money, and that's where they're getting hurt. So it's interesting, just the type of clientele that are living in properties. It's going to hurt one property, and it doesn't hurt another just because of the type of person that's living there. So just kind of interesting that way. All right, so the unemployment, we're looking at around 10% in South Dakota. We keep creeping up. Nationwide, it's about 25%. If you add the 33 million people that are have filed unemployment claims after COVID, plus the 3.5% that we started with, it gets you about 25%. And that's an estimate. Nobody really knows where this number actually is, so they can just basically go off of the first-time claims. And that's of last Saturday. So you can kind of see here too, we just feel like we're just in the eye of the storm as in terms of rent collection, in terms of unemployment. South Dakota is faring pretty well, even though we also have a lot of pain. So let's look at the opening of Sioux Falls. So the ordinance was just passed on Thursday. The city council passed it, and so I want to take kind of a deep dive into what it looks like. Some of this will apply to rental property, but some of it will be more interesting to those of us who want to go to a restaurant again. So first of all, some definitions. So a premise, they're defining, means the business, building or structure together with a parking lot, patio, and other outdoor seating area. Social distancing means separation of at least 6 feet between party seating arrangements. Okay, so that's an interesting note. A party means groups of 6 or fewer adult patients. Minors are allowed and not included in the party limits. A patron is a customer of any business, but does not include the owners, employees, or staff of the business. And then seating means patron seating at tables, counters, and bars. Okay, so we're going to bring all that together into the first section, which is all licensed food services. And so that's the bars, the coffee houses, the wineries, etc., shall be permitted to allow patrons into their business so long as they don't have more than 10 patrons or the number of patrons for which the business can provide seating to all parties which is no less than 6 feet apart from other parties. And so if you think about the definition of a party with 6 people, 6 adults, plus minors, and you have to basically put them at a table and then don't let the next table be closer than 6 feet to the other party. And so if you kind of read through between the lines here, you could, I suppose, have a group of teenagers, minors, right, 17 years old, having a party. You could potentially have, 15 of those teenagers plus 6 adults who are 18 or older. So you could have a party of 20, essentially, or 21, whatever the number is. So shall not exceed the greater of the following. So this is going to be for a small coffee house. Maybe they're not able to. Maybe they only have a few tables, right? A coffee house, I could see even having less than 10 tables, and so they wouldn't be able to put more people in. But I think, this is pretty liberal from what I can see, right? 6 people in a party and keeping a table 6 feet apart. Maybe that's a little bit wider than what's intended. I'm not sure how booths would work. That's kind of interesting, right? If you're back to back in a booth, whether you have to skip every other booth. So anyway, that's what it looks like for food and wineries, etc. Now this one is more interesting to the rental property side, because I think we kind of fall more here, especially with multifamily, which has fitness rooms and theater rooms and community centers and stuff. It's kind of hard to tell where multifamily fits in, but we kind of feel we fit more in this section than any, if we had to pick one. So it's essentially the fitness clubs, athletic facilities, entertainment venues, so theaters. The max that they're allowing is 10 patrons or 50% of the business's occupant load as determined by the city fire marshal. And so we looked it up, and the occupancy for public spaces is generally 100 square feet per person. So if you think about that, you really need 200 square feet per person now, because you can only do 50% of the occupancy load. And so figure out how big the space is, divided by 200, and that gives you the number of people that you can safely allow in. And then the third section is kind of basically say all other businesses that are not included in this. It's basically follow the CDC guidelines, which essentially is stay 6 feet apart. That's going to be all the normal Walmart, Ace Hardware, all the things that have stayed open, grocery stores. All that hasn't really changed. So really, this is just talking to the bars, the restaurants, the entertainment venues that had the tight restrictions of no more than 10 people. All right, so that's what we got for today. Any questions, just put it in the comments and we'll try to answer them online for you. Great. Have a great day. Bye-bye.